Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Batman by Paul Dini Omnibus. This is the new printing, so we'll also have a comparison to the original printing. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So what we have here is the latest printing of the Batman by Paul Dini Omnibus. The original printing came out in 2020, so it's been a few years. As a matter of fact, I remember doing the overview of the original printing, and we're going to see if there's any differences. So I am going to do a comparison to that original printing here. We have a front cover on the dust jacket here by Dustin Nguyen, which is the same cover they used over here. Dustin Nguyen, Don Kramer, Wayne Faucher, and Derek Fridolfs down at the bottom with the DC logo, and then of course Paul Dini. That looking identical, honestly. The spine of the book, Batman by Paul Dini Omnibus, and the DC logo looking sharp right there with the red on black. The original printing is just a little bit thicker, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. And then the back of the book right here, dive into the seedy underbelly of Gotham City with one of DC's greatest storytellers. Man, truer words, I swear. Giving you a little bit of synopsis as to what's happening, what's collected in here, and then the price of the book. Actually, no, they don't. In the new printing and the original printing, they don't tell you what's collected in here. I thought that's what this was. But the closer I look, it just tells you the ISBN and the retail price, which is $125. So both of them, the original printing and the new printing, are $125. Now, let's look underneath the dust jacket. So in the new printing and original printing, and I do love the fact that the flaps make this wonderful image right here from one of the storylines in there. And with that bandaged face, you know who is back. But here is what it looks like underneath the dust jacket from the... This is actually from Streets of Gotham, if I'm not mistaken. One of the panels from Streets of Gotham. Again, by Dustin Nguyen, with the Batman logo right there. And it's back here. So yes, this one thicker, and this is a little bit slimmer here on the new printing. So let's see what that image looks like. And then I promise we'll do some internal comparison. Let's go ahead and crack this book open. I didn't go back and watch. I never do go back and watch my old videos. I'm not sure exactly what I mentioned, so I'll try not to repeat myself, maybe. But I am going to talk a little bit about the stories in here and what makes this such a wonderful collection for beginners to Batman, or at least in my opinion. All right, let's go ahead and get it open. We have some black end sheets right there. Batman by Paul Dini, again, Dustin Nguyen right there. And this piece by Dustin Nguyen, even though this particular issue is not collected in here. Dustin Nguyen, Derek Fridolfs doing some of the writing in here, but it's, of course, mainly by Paul Dini. Dustin Nguyen, Don Kramer, Wayne Faucher, Derek Fridolfs doing some of the art, J.H. Williams kicking it off here. And then your colorist, John Cleese, Guy Majors, Neil Adams. Neil Adams really just coloring himself. And then your letters, Jared Fletcher and Steve Wands and John J. Hill, just to name a few. Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, right there. And then a little bit of the behind-the-scenes people that put this particular book together. And again, this is the 2024 printing. And your table of contents. And your introduction right here by Paul Dini, talking about just how wonderful of an experience it was, and even for the editors to come and ask him to do this. Now, he also gives you a little bit of behind the scenes as to why these three particular stories are special to him, like Sleigh Ride, and then Shark Bite from issue 828, and then the Wonderland Gang from issue 841. This same introduction as in the original printing. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, if you have the original printing and you're like, well, maybe they fixed some of the mistakes in there. This is an exact same copy of that original printing. Even some of the mistakes, which is leaving out the page numbers. There are no page numbers in this printing either. So just like the original printing, your table of contents doesn't really matter, right? Because one other thing that DC does most of the time is give you a text list cover, which is wonderful. You get to see all of the Simone Bianchi artwork, but they don't tell you where it came from or what issue it is. So this negative is on all of the back of the covers. So bookmark, just like, what was it, Mystic, I think, just from Marvel. So it's not a DC exclusive thing. Marvel sometimes lets these things slide, and sometimes it happens at DC. So this exact same scans and everything is what you found in the original printing. All right, so back to this. Let's talk about this book. What is collected in here, first of all? So collected in here is Batman 685, Batman Annual number 1, Batman Black and White number 3, Batman Gotham Knights 14, Batman Streets of Gotham 1 through 4, 7, 10 through 14, 16 through 21, the DCU Holiday Special number 1, Detective Comics 821 to 824, and 826 to 828, 831, 833 to 834, 837 to 841, 843 to 850, 852, and then material from 1000. So it is the exact same content as the original printing, 1032 pages, which is just something we've kind of grown accustomed to, both at Marvel and DC. Whenever there is a reprint, they don't really add anything, or unless they change it up. Like, for example, the Marvel, what was it, Thor by JMS. They added Kieran Gillen's run, so they remapped the whole thing and they called it Thor by JMS and Kieran Gillen. All right, so this is just the Paul Dini stories, and they work so wonderfully. Like, I love the way that these particular issues work. This is towards the beginning of the 1 year later, so after 52, after Infinite Crisis. We had this 1 year where pretty much Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman took off, and other people kind of took their roles for a while, including Batman. Now, if you want to read the story of who took over Batman's role, who's behind the cowl, that's found in the Face-to-Face storyline by James Robinson. And actually, you don't need to have read anything to enjoy the stories in here, but if you really want to, I would maybe do Face-to-Face, because there are some characters that show up through here, and also Hush, and that would be about it, honestly, because Paul Dini just does a marvelous job of reintroducing you to these characters and also newer characters. So in the very first story, these are one-off stories. I love them. One and done. That's it. Just like the mentality of Batman the Animated Series, where they hardly ever continued into a second part. That's what we start off with here. So the first storyline is about Gotham's high society, and they're all falling victim to this gang that are masquerading themselves in these hoods. And we have this new villain named the Facade, who of course wears a mask. Now, one really amazing part about this era of Batman, it is again 1 year later after Infinite Crisis, but some villains are trying to have some redemption arcs, such as Edward Nygma. So he opens up this Enigma Counseling Detective Agency, which finds the Riddler pretty much going straight from the opening of this particular omnibus. Well, and you can find out exactly how he becomes a villain again if he does, or if he stays true to his word. But in the first case, he helps to prove that Bruce Wayne did not commit the murder of his former girlfriend, Carrie Bishop. So it's stories like that that you're going to find through here. And this is the Poison Ivy story right here, where Poison Ivy is being attacked at Arkham Asylum. You have beautiful Joe Benitez on artwork, Don Kramer doing the second issue, but then J.H. Williams III, who of course is a phenomenal, one of my favorite, actually he's my second favorite artist of all time, and doing the very first story in here with Paul Dini. Yeah, this one is about Poison Ivy being stalked at Arkham Asylum. This monster is coming in the shape of a plant, trying to attack her, and she can't control it, so she seeks the shelter. All right, Joe Benitez, man, doing what he does. She ends up going to the Batcave and staying with Batman and Robin because she needs help. This is the story of Penguin, who's also trying to go straight. This is Night of the Penguin, and he pretty much is playing a poker game where the stakes are high. Now, this is another character that you're going to be seeing through here. This is Zatanna, who will play a big part in this omnibus. It's either her or the character of Catwoman. Now, this is the sleigh ride story. This is the one that Paul Dini talked about at the very beginning, what it meant to him, and it's a one-off story where on Christmas Day, the Joker ends up kidnapping Tim Drake, because Tim Drake during this time is Robin, but that will change in a little bit. And it's all about Tim Drake trying to get out of this nightmare scenario where the Joker's just driving him around and killing people, so he has to put a stop to it. So that's what that particular story is. We are introduced to a new ventriloquist, well, you all know Scarface, but in the pages of Face to Face, something was going on with some of the villains. Somebody was going around killing them, and you can find out exactly what happens to the character of Scarface and the ventriloquist, the original ventriloquist in that story. But this new character is named Peyton, and she's introduced through these very pages. And Peyton has a little bit of a history with not just Batman, but also Bruce Wayne that ties it in so damn good later on. And Harley also plays a role in some of this as is kind of like family, and Harley Quinn ends up doing her best to get parole through good behavior, and she ends up getting kidnapped from Arkham, and she ends up getting drafted by this new Scarface right here to go and carry out a robbery. So it's one-off wonderful stories like that you're going to be seeing through here. One and done. That's it. Now, that's what I consider like a big chunk of stories. You don't need to have read anything beforehand or afterwards. And then we get to the two-parter. This is why I think it's a wonderful introduction for people new to Batman and for people new to Omnis. Oh, you're like a two-parter. Hey, I just read about, all those one-and-dones. So a two-parter. This will continue into the next issue. Got it. I can deal with that. So this particular story is about a magician whose assistant died during a stunt, and of course Batman is there to investigate. Now, apparently there's a pattern of deaths and mutilations in this particular magician's latest shows. So he calls in a favor to Zatanna, and you can see that they had a little bit of a history together when they were kids. And they try to solve exactly who is behind this and why. And of course, there are twists and turns through here with that particular character. It's a wonderful two-parter that I cannot recommend high enough. And by the time you get to the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, this is when you go from, okay, the single issue standalone story to the two-parter story, got it, and then you get to the crossover. Now the crossover will teach you, wait, this just kicks off with part 3. Where are part 1 and 2? Well, that can be found in the collected edition of the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, call him whatever you call him. I'm not here to argue with people about how to pronounce his name. Even the creators and everybody behind the scenes just don't agree. Rage for me, though. But anyway, so there was a story that I think that is the one downfall of this omnibus. They don't tell you what happened previously in the crossover with the pages of Batman and Nightwing and Robin. They just jump right into part 3. And then after part 3, by the way, beautiful artwork in here by Ryan Benjamin. I always liked his art since his Wildstorm days. We don't even get the story of the armor, which is done by, I think it's Peter Milligan, actually. So because Peter Milligan wrote that story in the pages of Detective Comics, you don't really get to see that armor. And that armor plays a big part later on in the new Azrael's life. Not Jean-Paul Valley, but Azrael. Now, the epilogue of the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul is done by Dustin Nguyen, and this is his first issue. And from this moment on, it will be primarily him. Before that, it was mainly Don Kramer working with Paul Dini. But after this, it will be mainly Dustin Nguyen working with Paul Dini on Detective Comics until Detective Comics is relaunched. And it will be relaunched because something big happens, and there's a whole shakeup within all of the Bat family. Again, Zatanna playing a big role. This is where you find out exactly who Peyton is and what her roles will be, and whether or not the Riddler remains to be a good guy or not. they can be found towards these particular pages. And this is when, of course, Catwoman starts playing a bigger role as a supporting cast of Detective Comics, which leads us into what I consider the best Hush story. Heart of Hush, to me, is perfection. I love the way that Paul Dini writes the character of Hush. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you haven't read Hush before, if you've never seen the movies, because I think in the movies they do reveal who he is, but if you've never read the original Hush, I'm going to be talking about some spoilers, mainly the identity of Hush, because it plays heavily into this return. Okay, just in case, I like to cover my bases. So Hush does come back. This is after the events of Hush Returns. We've seen him play a small part in the War Games storyline, but here he comes back with a vengeance. And what he decides to do is go back to his medical field and destroy Bruce Wayne from the inside. This is a very dangerous villain. He knows the identity of Bruce Wayne, but he knows it because they were friends. They were childhood friends, and of course he holds Bruce accountable for because his father healed Tommy's mother, and she got to live, making his life a living hell. There's actually some of that in here. It's a dangerous type of villain because he knows every little bit about Bruce Wayne, and he has been studying Batman his entire life. The guy's a genius. He's a surgeon, and he's also a villain. Probably one of the better villains that have come out of the Batman Rogue Gallery in the last couple of decades. It just feels weird saying that was a couple of decades ago. Heart of Hush, he comes back with a vengeance. And what he ends up doing in here is he ends up taking Selina Kyle's heart. And it's up to Bruce Wayne to try to get it back. So how does she live without a heart? Well, of course, this is when Bruce, Batman, gets the most smartest guys that he can, besides himself, right, to try to help, like Mr. Terrific and Dr. Midnight. And the payoff, the ending of this is so damn good. I'm a sucker for Hush Returns. I'm just a sucker for Hush. I really enjoy that character. And I think I'm one of the few people that liked Hush Returns. But to me, Heart of Hush is where Hush is the best he is. Now, that sets up the things that happen later on. We do have Faces of Evil right here. This is a two-parter pretty much that tells us a little bit about Hush and what he's doing, Tommy how he's changing, and then the revenge from Catwoman, which leads directly into the new ongoing series, and that is Batman Streets of Gotham. Now, I'll have to talk a little bit about why there's a new ongoing series, so spoilers for what happened in Batman R.I.P. without going too much into detail. Batman's been replaced. He is no longer Bruce Wayne. Under the cowl is now Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson is Batman. Damian Wayne is Robin. And you have Tim Drake, he's Red Robin, trying to figure out what happened to Bruce Wayne. But at the ending, or really in the storyline of Heart of Hush and in here, Tommy gave himself plastic surgery. So he looks like Bruce Wayne, and since they've been best friends, or they were best friends since childhood, he knows how to act like Bruce Wayne. So this leads into House of Hush. This leads into Hush Money. So this particular issues of Streets of Gotham are heavily focused on Hush. I mean, there's other things going on, of course, like Firefly making a return there. You've got a bunch of the villain. The Zsasz storyline is dark. Just what they end up doing with the kids. I mean, Zsasz is just a creep anyway. But when you get a bunch of kids involved, including one named Colin, who played a part earlier on with the Heart of Hush storyline. This is the Carpenter story right here. So you still get a couple of one-off storylines, one and done. This is a girl that is hired by criminals to go and put like traps to try to capture Batman. But then they try to double cross her, and it doesn't go the way that they think it's going to go. Now, eventually, of course, I'm sure people know that Bruce Wayne does come back. So all those missing issues in here in the Streets of Gotham and in Detective Comics, they're not, I don't want to say they're not important, but to enjoy this, not really, not 100%. Now, I am a sucker for being a completionist. Like, I have to have everything. So I still have my trade paperback. So the next time I do the updated reading order of Batman, you'll see the trades that you'll need in case you have this. And it's kind of almost ridiculous, right? You have this big book you paid $125 for. Why in the hell would you want all those? Because it's got like 1 or 2 issues that are not collected in here. And if you're like me, hey, yeah, we're not alone. But that's what happens when we have creator-centric books. Now, there are stories after the ending of the Streets of Gotham, like this right here, which was previously collected in the Poison Ivy and the Harley Quinn Deluxe Edition. And you have the Batman Black and White story in here by Alex Ross, but also Stefan Rao. Oh, there's the story by Neil Adams, the Harley Quinn story right here. Paul Dini and Neil Adams working together. That's just freaking phenomenal. Dustin Nguyen doing the Legends of Newt Brody, who's a character that appeared through these pages. And then your variants in the back and sketches, and then from script to finish art right here with the Sleigh Ride storyline. And you have the thumbnail sketches, the pencils going to inks, and then the colors, and then some cover changes that happen later on. Biography on Paul Dini, Dustin Nguyen, and Don Kramer, Wayne Foucher, Derek Fridolfs, and Simone Bianchi, and your end sheets. Now let's look at this eye. 1,032 pages, and that's what the eye looks like. It is sewn binding and printed in this not quite glossy or semi-gloss, maybe like satin type of paper stock. There is minimal bleed through happening. As a matter of fact, let's do a comparison, because I remember my original printing having some binding issues because it was just so tight with all that glue that they had. So let's check it out together, what it looks like. So the original printing here on the left and the new printing on the right. I mentioned that this one was thicker, and that's mainly due to the paper stock. The paper stock in the original printing is this really thick, glossy paper that DC used to use. And look, right here you can see just all the word omnibus, where over here you do get some gutter loss right from the beginning. And your table of contents, again, this is kind of like that satin paper. It's not really matte paper, it's not really glossy paper, but I don't want to call it semi-gloss. But definitely thinner than the paper stock they've used in the past, which can change some of the colors at times, but honestly, it doesn't look that much different over here. But I did want to show you just how it laid over compared to like this one over here, my original printing. And I mentioned the no page numbers again. It looks like this particular panel has been shifted up a little bit from over here, because you can see less white space and more white space here, and then more white space there. I wonder how that ended up happening. Yeah, it looks like maybe the whole file got shifted up. That's kind of a weird thing. Maybe just this issue, because if that keeps happening, then you're going to lose some of the artwork. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? They've shifted it up, but you gain some more artwork. Ah, see? There you go. You gain some more artwork down here. Now, I'm going to do a comparison thoroughly and make sure that it's not the whole thing. As a matter of fact, I want to go to some white pages here. The cover's been shifted up a little bit too. Want to be as thorough as possible, that yeah, even the covers are shifted up a little bit. And just a little more bleed through in the new printing. But that is it. That, as they say, well, this one, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. In the comments down below, let me know if you already have it, or if you're upgrading your trade paperbacks, and if this is the way you like to collect it, or you love the way that the trade paperbacks or hardcovers are mapped because it doesn't leave anything out. Any questions, leave them down below. And then, of course, my favorite question to ask people, what other Batman omnibus or era do you want to see collected in omnibus format? But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.